We are officially down to 3 games left in the NFL season, and these next 2 games, which are the AFC Championship and NFC Championship game, are gonna be very interesting for a lot of reasons. What's up, guys? Welcome back to So Back Sports, and I'm so back with another video. And today I'm gonna be doing my AFC and NFC Championship game predictions. So before we get into that, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get on with it as well. So as you can see, we have, let me get this a little bit bigger. The first game, Commanders versus Eagles, is going to be a little bit tricky to kind of predict because there are a lot of factors going into both teams. One specifically, the Washington Commanders are coming into this game with, a lot of house money essentially. They weren't even supposed to be here this far. And against an Eagles team who has been here, been done that, went to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, and even lost a Super Bowl most recently, like are looking to get back to the big game in February. But the Commanders are just continuing that high of beating opponents that they're not even supposed to beat. Like the first game against Tampa, they like dominated for the most part, but then it was a close game near the end, and eventually they won. And in terms of domination, they faced the number one seed in the Lions and completely blew them out of the water. And yes, it was due to the fact that the Detroit Lions didn't play their best game of football, but you can't really count out the Commanders in this case because Jaden Daniels is having a really solid run as a quarterback for the Washington Commanders, and his rookie season is something that is out of like Madden when it comes to my career mode. And I can't really say that they are going to be like huge underdogs in the game because they just prove everyone wrong like constantly in this case. But at the same time, can the Eagles really pull this win off like convincingly? Because if you saw their game against the Rams, yes, you can make a factor that it was in the snow. The weather was a big factor when it comes to how well they were able to play. But prior to that, it started to kind of dwindle off in terms of their offensive production. And the defense really made a lot of stopping points to prevent that Rams offense to get that game winning drive. And that's one thing that the Eagles are going to have to rely on, especially since Jalen Hurts has been coming in and out of injury. And as of right now, him and Quinion Mitchell are, limited in practice this week. So we have to really monitor that and how well they're going to be able to play and ready to go come play game time on Sunday. Specifically, I think another thing, the defense for the Eagles, that's pretty solid. And nothing really to worry about there because Jalen Carter on the D line has been dominant. And one thing to really note is getting to the quarterback is going to be what is the key to success for the Eagles in this case. Because if you get to the quarterback, it will make life a lot easier for your defense and make life a lot harder for the offense of the Commanders, especially since they're very young, not necessarily like super talented roster wise. I think that's the only way that the Eagles are going to have a chance to win because I don't know how good Jalen Hurts is going to be going into this game because he didn't look that great to end the game. He had that big touchdown run in the beginning to start, but that really kind of dwindled down and he became a liability at some points in the game. So it really depends on that. And I think that's what the Commanders are going to really rely on, and especially with their young defense as well. Um, shouldn't really say young defense because they have a lot of like balance in terms of veteran presence and rookie presence, specifically at the quarterback position. But then again, Jaden Daniels has been really good with and the play calling from Cliff Kingsbury as well. Really solid stuff. Not utilizing um too much of the pass game, but or overly relying on the pass game, but finding that balance to, you know, show that they can be a dual threat, especially utilizing RPO and play action is going to be very crucial against this Philly defense because they're going to get at the quarterback and you might as well put him in space as well. And that's what Jaden Daniels has been good throughout the season. And what we've known to him being very dominant is in utilizing his legs. And That's one of the key things for the Commanders. If you're really gonna, make me choose between the two, it's gonna be a really close game, I feel. And I think that it really just comes down to, you know, who is healthier. And this case, it will be definitely the Commanders because Jalen Hurts is kind of banged up right now. But they do have their weapons on the Philly side. But I will give that slight edge to Philadelphia, so solely for the sake of experience. And Nick Sirianni's been there before, so I just feel like it's the safer option. But at the same time, I cannot count out the Commanders because while they did beat a team like the Lions, they forced four turnovers to a Detroit Lions team. You can make the argument that the Detroit Lions didn't show up to that game, but they did what they needed to do, especially a team as young as that with Dan Quinn as their first time head coach. Cliff Kingsbury, who's had head coach role, got fired from it, became offensive coordinator at USC with Caleb Williams, and then came to coach Dayton Daniels. Like, you got to put some respect on this Commanders team, especially with one game away from a Super Bowl. But then again, I still predict that the Philadelphia Eagles will win this game pretty. Like, it'll be definitely a close game to say the least, and I will say it'll be very surprisingly entertaining as well. Let's go on to the second game and last game of this weekend. And I think this is the game that people are looking forward to the most, and that is the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. And listen, Kansas City Chiefs have had Josh Allen's number for the last how many ever times they've faced in the playoffs, and it's always ended up the same with the Kansas City Chiefs beating the Buffalo Bills. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs have lost to the Bills in the regular season, but at the same time, the Bills just have a tough time beating them in the postseason when it matters the most. And that's the thing that the Bills are going to have to try to like overcome. And it's kind of hard to overcome when that's the narrative that's been pushed around by not only the media, but like, the people around you as well, because that will get to you at some point. And I think, that showing against the Baltimore Ravens really showed a lot about they don't necessarily have to have like the most flashiest of games from Josh Allen, but enough to where he should not turn over the ball for them to even have a chance. And I think if Josh can mitigate um those turnovers and can put up some rushing stats while also throwing the ball effectively, I think they can have a really good shot at it. And Joe Brady as well, as throughout these playoffs and throughout this year, have been really good and really solid when it comes to utilizing Josh's strengths. And that's something that they didn't have prior to Joe Brady when they had Ken Dorsey as their offensive coordinator. And utilizing James Cook as well. James Cook, I think, is what's going to be the deciding factor in this game. Because if they can get the run game going, I think that they can really have a solid chance at keeping up with the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And yes, their defense, Kansas City, has been really, really good. And they've been a consistently good defense for the last couple of years, essentially, especially under Steve Spagnuolo, the defensive coordinator. So you got to take that into consideration as well. Patrick Mahomes, there's really not much else to say. Like, he will turn up when it really needs to, when it comes to the playoffs, and you will have the occasional ref ball. That's going to be a given when you're a really good team. So if the Buffalo Bills really want to win this game, they have to play clean football. They have to not turn over the ball because you will have penalties that will go against you throughout this game. And if those penalties will add up at some point, and then you will lose this game by like 2, 3, maybe even 1 at some points because you're trying to, this is the game that will decide your offseason, how it's going to be talked about, and will also decide whether you make the Super Bowl or not. You made the AFC Championship game after a year removed from Stephon Diggs being your wide receiver one, and now you have a chance to rewrite those narratives as the Buffalo Bills. And you're trying to get to the Super Bowl and rectify that 4 straight Super Bowl losses that you've had in your previous history. So, that being said, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs offensive side. As long as they, do what they continue to do, utilize Kareem Hunt, uh, utilize their wide receivers, especially I think there's word that McCole Hardman might play. So if as long as they have depth on their wide receiver side and running back side, I think they should be okay to run the run game as well. And as long as Patrick Mahomes, like, continues to play some clean games and uh was Andy Reid calls a good game, I think that they're going to be fine on that side. I have no worries for the Kansas City Chiefs, specifically because they just consistently find a way to win and they figure out how to win in the most dire of circumstances. And they do have the luck charm on their side, so as do like the Commanders in that sense. So you got to keep that in mind as well. That being said, I think it's going to be a close game. And personally, I really want the Bills to win this so badly. Like, genuinely, I really do want the Bills to win because I want to see Josh Allen in the Super Bowl. And I think a lot of the, you know, main media like takes are they do want to see him there as well. And especially with a young team like that and Sean McDermott trying to make it to the Super Bowl, like I really hope this does happen, but that only will happen if the team plays clean football. If they do not play clean football, they are shooting themselves in the foot and they are eventually cooked against the Kansas City Chiefs for like the third, fourth time in their history right now between the Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes era. But that being said, that's going to do it for today's video and today's prediction. We'll have one more prediction going into before the Super Bowl starts, so 2 weeks from now. So there's going to be a little bit of a break for this, but there will definitely be more content and the podcast episodes every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Always remember to like and subscribe to the content. And thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we'll see you guys in the next one.